All right, let's get you updated on our grain and livestock trade here. Everything with a higher bias except for the wheat this morning on the open. Let's take a look at that corn market. And on the corn, so far, we go to that May contract because March is in delivery now. The May contract 3 higher at 371 1/4. July up 2 1/4. Now the deferreds like December, they're only a penny higher on that December contract. Now if you go to the soybean market, here you have the May contract 9 3/4 higher. 902 1/2 is the last trade. Let's check out July. 9 3/4 higher there as well. By the way, November's up 9. Now on to the wheat. Here we go with Chicago wheat, where we have the May now 5 lower and 520, bucking the trend of the other grains. Let's take a look at Kansas City wheat. What's it up to today? Well, we have the May contract 5 1/4 lower at 448. July down 5 1/2. Minneapolis wheat, it's been struggling today as well. The May down 1.5 pennies, and we have July down 1.5 pennies as well at 535 1/4. Chris Swift is in the studio. He is here with us right now to talk about what we are looking at.
Good morning.
Interesting times.
It are indeed.
Don't you think?
They are indeed.
A little bit of a snapback, but only in corn and beans. Why?
Yeah. I'm not real sure. I think that the demand for corn and beans remains very good. When we look at the amount of livestock protein that we're having to, meat protein that we're having to produce, then we're going to need excessive soybean meal and corn in order to keep up with a lot of the deficits that we have around the world. And I think that's one of the big pulls that we'll just kind of see an undertone on those two markets. And wheat, of course, rain makes grain, so I guess all the rain is helping the current wheat market in the ground, or current wheat crop in the ground. So
that's what's going on
it's
there.
It's the only thing I can really think of. There's just not that much else happening in the world about wheat right now.
Did I not hear that Australia has been getting a little rain
They
and
have
maybe
been
setting the stage for their next crop, perhaps?
It is very possible, but of course what they're running into now is flooding. So a lot of the burned areas begins to deteriorate some of the ground effects that would slow the water, and now they're getting flooding. So it's kind of from one bad thing to the next.
I had heard that, well, it's obvious on the charts too. If you look at corn, it was getting severely oversold. Soybeans, maybe not so much. But it seems like soybeans are having more of a reaction today. Do you think there's something going on behind the scenes today?
Well, the meal, I think the meal market is what was been, and we noted that palm oil had been going down, and that had kind of impacted the bean oil as well. And now both of those products, bean oil is short up just a little bit, and bean meal has actually kind of started to reverse a little bit and trades higher.
I had heard that Malaysian palm oil, that was around 4-month lows, I believe. I had heard, I think it bounced overnight.
That's
too.
right. That's right.
So that's a little supportive on the oil trade. Okay, now we're not that far away from our March WASDE report now.
Yes.
Have you heard anything about when they're going to resurvey the northern corn acres?
No, I have not. I know that USDA had a meeting last week, somewhere, I'm not real sure where, but I'll be interested this afternoon to meet with some gentlemen that will know a little bit more about that, but I don't know right offhand.
That would be extremely curious to the trade.
Yes, it would.
All right, so we're going to see if we get any news about any exports, because today is the day that those exemptions go into effect.
Yes, that is correct.
On Chinese tariffs. So now all eyes are they in there as buyers today, and we may not find out for a while. Although if they buy anything big, it'll have to show up overnight.
Well, and we may see a little bit of that in the livestock markets. When we go to them, we see a little bit of positive reactions then that there may be something to that.
Ooh, what a tease. All right, well, let's go do that. We'll pause for a break, and we'll come back and take a look at that livestock trade. As Chris just mentioned, we'll have that coming up next. Well, right before the break, this gentleman here, Chris Swift, made he made some comment about livestock really perking up today. Well, let's see what he's talking about here. Let's dive into this on live cattle this morning. As we start out the month of March officially in the trade, we have the April 210 higher. We're at 109. Make it 109.65. So that means we're $2.08 higher, and we're off of our earlier high by roughly about 60 cents right now. June up 213. We're at 103.33. Strong gains continuing, led by the nearby contracts. Is that important?
No, probably so. Delivery, front-end delivery.
Okay.
We want it now.
That's more of a bullish sign than if it was the other way around.
It's a friendly sign. It's a friendly sign.
Okay. Now let's take a look at our feeder cattle market, see what it's doing. Is it following suit? Well, it is. We have March 290 to the upside. We have it at 134.18. April up $2.58. Right now we're at 135.28. Once again, I guess you could say the nearby is leading the way, but they're a lot more even here. Now to the lean hogs. Here we go. On the lean hog trade, we are generally higher, but not quite everywhere. April up 27. We're at 62.55. May now 13 cents lower at 68.90 per hundredweight. And then you have the deferreds all higher, but not by too much. We have June up 30 at 77.53. So mixed action in the lean hogs. Obviously, they don't think today, with the exemptions on the tariffs going into effect, is causing a big buying spree today anyway.
Not in the hogs necessarily. The one thing that we noted is that with all of the city shutdowns or province shutdowns in China, trade does not go through, and because 60% of their meats are sold to the wet markets, which is a kind of an outdoor market where they would hang product and people would just come by and do it. There's no refrigeration. There's very little freezer. So all of these provinces that have been shut down, that meat spoils. So there is going to be a significant replenishing, either A, coming off of cold storage in some way, or from imports coming back in to resupply a great deal of that protein that has now been just ruined by the city literally be shutting down. And here in the U.S., we kind of went through a little panic-stricken portion last week with the equities market, and we saw some fear-mongering out there where I don't want to go out, I don't want to go do this, and maybe after the weekend, a little cooler heads have prevailed and said, people get sick all the time. So whether or not we can really avoid this or we're going to allow it to change our lifestyle, that's yet to be seen. But I can't imagine that too many people will want to dramatically change their lifestyle for a relatively low risk of attracting this virus.
Over the weekend, and everything has been focused on coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
everything
just
That's
overshadows
right.
everything.
Yes.
But over the weekend, something came up that really has been overshadowed, and it was a story, I believe, out of Singapore, if I recall, and they had a shipment of meat that came in that tested positive for African swine fever on the meat.
Okay.
And so they're having to do away with that whole shipment of meat.
Right.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing for U.S. pork trade? We don't have much time, but I just wanted to ask you about that.
Well, it's anything that you see continual reduction in pork is going to be eventually beneficial to the U.S. when U.S. and China trade begins to go back to normalization. Right. But I don't think it's anything just really bullish or bearish one way or the other.
Keep an eye on.
It is.
But anyway, it was one of those oldies but goodies. Okay, we'll come back and we'll talk more about the markets in our next half hour. But Chris, thanks for coming.
Absolutely, sir.
Chris Swift of Swift Trading Incorporated here in Nashville. Janet, back to you.
It was pretty inside. Thank you guys very much.